Hey everyone, I just wanted to go over some details of this paper that is due. Hopefully you are aware that there's a paper due this week. If you go into learning materials, and then we are in week 12 somehow, and you can see here your research paper, right? So this is the sustainability of an everyday object. You can see it's due November 16th, which is Sunday. And I want to go over a couple of really important points, so make sure you're paying attention and make sure you watch this whole video. So, okay. First thing I want to go over. Number one, look at the rubric. Here's how I grade you. And so anytime there's a rubric, you should make sure that you look at it, make sure that you're addressing all of the points in the rubric. This one's pretty basic, but there's a couple things I want to point out in here. So it's a small research paper is what it is, but these usually end up being around 3 pages, so 2.5, 3 pages is pretty normal. It's not a huge paper. It really shouldn't be. It's not meant to be. I just wanted you to dig into some of the details of this everyday object that you chose, and this obviously the sustainability implications. So a couple things here. Number one, remember you have to make at least 3 points, like so 3 aspects of sustainability that it impacts. And you can see in your rubric we have 1, 2, 3. Okay, so how well do you explain those? Also consider this is a regular paper, so you have an introduction. I grade you on, make sure it's like a nice introduction. And then you have the body of the paper, and then you have your conclusion, concluding paragraph. You should know how to do this at this point. I do look for basic spelling and grammar and organization and flow. So it should be a well-written paper, basically, and make sure that your grammar and your spelling are buttoned up as well. Um, there's also this quality of information. This is important. This is 20% of this rubric grade. And so you should, in your explanation for the sustainability impacts, I mean, you should have some very specific impacts that have some basis in, an outside source. Okay, so this is not just like, you're explaining things off the cuff or whatever. Like you want to do some research on this object, and then you absolutely need to cite um, those outside sources. So a couple things about those outside sources. You need to use in-text citations. Um, okay, so in-text citations. This is from Penn State University. This is publicly available. I'm going to attach this to the assignment so you have this for reference. So an in-text citation is this. Okay, so when you provide some information and then you cite your source in the text. So that's why it's called in text. So we're using APA style, right? APA, which is really common for social sciences. And there's different styles. There's MLA. I forget the other ones, but MLA and APA are kind of the big ones. So we're using APA, which means you have to parenthesize your citations like that. So it's author's last name and then the year it was published. There's a little bit of a guide down here, right? So for example, if you find information on a website and it needs to be a legitimate website, and there's no date. So a lot of times there is a date. Let's see if there's a date on here. Right. So this, if I was citing this, it was last updated on August 26, 2025. So that's the date I would use. But sometimes there's no date on the website, and that's okay as long as it's good information and a good source. If that's the case, you just put this little ND instead of the year. All right. So remember, author and year. If there's no year, you just put ND. But I'm not going to go over all this. You should read this whole guide, and this helps you understand how to cite different sources like web pages and documents and books and so forth. I'm assuming most of them are going to be web sources, which is totally fine. So just be careful about that. All right, so you need in-text citations. That's really important. And this is, please, please, please pay attention to this. This is your sort of your guide for whether or not you need to cite something. If you do not know the information off the top of your head, you have to cite it. So in other words, if you have to look it up, cite it. If you think you know something, but you're not sure, and then you have to look it up to confirm it, cite it. All right. Do not make assertions that state some definitive statement about the sustainability impact of your object. And it's like, all right, do you have a source for that? Do you have a rationale for that? So when in doubt, cite it. Another really, really important thing, and please, please, please remember this. This is for anytime you write a paper. If you use direct quotes, you must put it inside of quotation marks. If that's the case, you either need to, if it's a book, you would cite the page. If it's a website, you would cite the paragraph number. So if it's a direct quote, author, last name, year, and then paragraph, right? Um, I can't stress this enough. Direct quotes need quotation marks. I also want to stress your paper should not be full of like almost all direct quotes from somewhere else. You should be reading and sort of assimilating, putting pieces of information together, and then writing your paper. You should not have a bunch of direct quotes. Just minimize them. It doesn't mean you can't have them, just minimize them. And then at the end, you should have a reference section. And this is a good guide here. And there's some other, if it's a reference entry, let's see, here's the web page, how to cite that. So just follow that guide. I'm not going to be super, super picky about it because it's not an English class, but I do absolutely expect to see references. Okay. Um, and that's it, right? So I will put a link to that webpage in this assignment. So just remember, the most important thing is read the instructions and then look at the rubric. If you can check all the boxes on the rubric, at least to some minimal extent, that's half the battle. And then, you want to make it a well-written paper with an introduction and conclusion and well-reasoned, well-resourced um, assertions. Okay. All right. So hopefully that helps. Remember that is due this Sunday, the 16th, by the end of the day. If you have any questions about this, let me know. But I look forward to reading your analyses.